Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Democratic View. And my name is Phyllis Italiano, and I am the hostess. And boy, are we lucky today. We have our sterling councilwoman right here with us today, Sylvia Overby. Thank you so much for coming out of
Thank you
your
for asking me. I love being
busy schedule.
Well, I love being on the show. It's always a lot of fun.
Yes, and I wanted to just give us 2 seconds of your background, of where you come from, where you were educated, and when you came here.
Okay. Quickly, I was born in Southern California, but moved when I was young to Florida. I graduated from Emory University in Georgia and met my husband there, who was actually from Huntington, Long Island, and that's how we got out here. He wanted to be back home, so back home ended up being East Hampton.
Well, having lived in Southern California, Atlanta, and Long Island, your husband was right.
He was absolutely right. It was, yes, I give him all the credit in the world and bless him every day for the fact that he brought me here to a place that is so gorgeous.
Yes, and isn't it? And that's our big problem. Our big problem is how do we protect this place to keeping it as gorgeous as it is. And I know you have been working now for almost 2 years.
Almost. Mm-hmm.
And
about a year and a half. I'm into it a year and a half.
So what's it like?
Well, we have our challenges, as anybody in government's going to have their challenges. So, we work every day, work hard, listen to a lot of people, and it's a big balancing act. In some instances and others, it's, you pretty much know which path you're going to be taking. So, but it's about listening to what the community wants and what it's all about.
Oh, I'm glad to know that somebody's listening to us. It's you.
Well, yes, but sometimes it's, you need to get, it's not just done by me, it's a board, and so we have to work as a board, and we have to get along as a board, and we have to get at least 3 votes to get certain things. If we're doing legislation, which is really our main focus, we have to have the 3 votes to get these things done.
Now you have a fellow who works with you very closely, which is Peter Van Scoyoc.
Yep.
And the 2 of you do represent, generally speaking, a vote. And so it's getting that 3rd vote, which is the big kahuna, as we would say.
It's been difficult. That's been a challenge.
So what do you see as some of the really most pressing issues here in East Hampton?
Well, I think, there are several, and one of them has to do with quality of life, and code enforcement really plugs into that quality of life issue. And you're seeing it in everything from, Springs down in Wainscott to Montauk. And I think a lot of people want to see that level playing field, and that's not what we're always seeing with code enforcement. And so they feel their quality of life is impacted. There are bigger ramifications in that as well. I mean, you want to make sure that your code enforcement officers are able to do their job, that the codes are written correctly, that the justices, when they go to court, can then make a case, and that your fines are appropriate for the problem that you're trying to solve, those kinds of things. Airport issues are another big issue that I think we've been dealing with. And, I think the big one that's out there since Hurricane Sandy, Superstorm Sandy, whatever you want to call it, is coastal erosion. And we see it more in Montauk, obviously. We've had to close Ditch Plains Beach for this weekend, Memorial Day weekend. And although, there are some improvements over the last day or 2 in building sand back to Ditch Plains, which is a phenomenon that's a naturally occurring phenomenon.
Yes, I know it well. Having been at Fire Island for many years, I've seen the beach go and come.
Yes. So, but this year it's been a little worse, and so we really feel that there are hazards that have been sort of uncovered, some old foundations that have fallen into the water that are now uncovered, that had been covered over by sand, and we see that. Periodically there's a shipwreck that shows itself every once in a while, depending on the seas. So, but that's concerning, and you want to make sure that you're doing the best thing that you can for the downtown Montauk area, and those are huge challenges.
I was mentioning to you before the show that I watched the last Tuesday work session. Was quite upset. One of the things that did upset me was not about talking about the Montauk downtown issue. Of course, absolutely, we have to do whatever we can because it does bring revenue into the town, and it's important to do whatever we can to legally and correctly reestablish those beaches. And of course, the push for an engineer who would know what he's doing seems to be the logical step. But what was left out of that discussion was if downtown Montauk is at such a risk, let's say Sandy came again and hit Montauk. What about the people in Montauk? Nobody talked about how to save the people, how to evacuate them, where to put them, and things like that. I thought that was very sorely missing out of that discussion.
Well, to answer that question, the fire department in Montauk is doing a stellar job of trying to do some emergency preparedness that they felt was lacking in that instance. And, they're making sure that the Montauk Playhouse has a generator. We've just bonded for the generator, hoping to get that from the village, who is not using a generator and is going to come to the town, I think by way of the contractor that actually built that original generator for the village, and making that a shelter. So yes, we have things that maybe weren't in place that made us stand up and take notice. And one of those things is obviously making sure that people have some place to go to. Evacuation out of this little spit of land surrounded by water on three sides is not an easy task, nor if we had been evacuating during Sandy, we really would have been going into the storm and we were in some way safer here. So shelter in place is certainly something that we talk about in emergency preparedness, so that we make sure that people that need to be sheltered can get out of their homes in low-lying areas, and people that need medical attention. And we need to know where those shelters are. We need to have a really good communication system, and some people feel that's lacking, and want to make sure, this storm was a real gut punch for so many people. We felt it not as bad as others to the west felt it, obviously, but now we need to be on our toes. We need to understand what's going to happen, and we need to make sure that we are ready.
We had a talk at the Springs Concerned Citizen Group with the gentleman who is the head of emergency management.
And Bruce Bates does a good job. He's a one-man show.
He's half-time.
And he is.
I can't get over that. I never did get over that.
And this is a big job. And I haven't talked to him recently. I know that as I said, I've really been more in touch with some of the fire departments, and so I know that they are working both Amagansett and Montauk. And Montauk in particular, I think they felt very vulnerable in that storm.
Don't blame them.
And Montauk would be a community that could get cut off in a big storm for a number of days, if not a number of weeks, after something that would be catastrophic.
It's something that I wish, having watched that, there was a gentleman from the Royal Atlantic Motel. What's his name again?
Mr. Kalimnios.
Mr. Kalimnios. I think he needs to go onto one of the top floors in his motel and look out at that ocean, because when I go to Gurney's and I look out at that ocean, I say to myself, oh my God. Big ocean.
It's and it can rock and roll. And
it's powerful.
It's very powerful. And we've seen the power of it just, from New Jersey to the end of Long Island.
I saw it in '96 in the storm on Fire Island, when the houses were in the surf from
Yeah.
fire from where I was in Lonelyville to Fair Harbor.
Yeah.
And there were like 10 houses. And it's powerful.
It is powerful, and
Uh,
we'd like to do the best solution for downtown Montauk that doesn't take away from other properties, further east or further west of the downtown area, the Royal Atlantic, those motels. We need to protect everything that we can in a way that is going to protect all of us in the same way. So I am not for shore hardening structures, and don't believe that kind of interference in the wave action, in erosion, is the way to go. What we lost were dunes.
Yes.
In East Hampton. We lost feet of dunes, but thank God we had those dunes there to protect us.
Yes.
So, we need to go back to what nature provided for us and make sure that we build dunes back again, and we don't do it in a way that interferes with the natural erosion and erosion is a process that continues to happen.
Yes, of course.
And
It
so,
will always.
and what happens, to the east of us eventually gets, further down. So we know cliffs erode, we know beaches erode, and that sand ends up further down.
Called the literal flow.
It is. So we want to make sure, and the people come here for our beaches. I know people come here.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah. So the loss of ditch plains is just as important as an income, as an economic base for East Hampton and Montauk as almost anything else. That it's a natural resource that we need to make sure we also preserve the natural resources. So shore hardening structures, scour out. They scour the beach. We've seen it happen, and we've seen it happen time and time again. So that's why, and I'm not a professional, so I'm giving a personal opinion from things I've seen. I would love to hire professionals, and we can base our decisions on professionals instead of basing it on I think, or I feel, or I looked over there and they did it, so maybe I should be able to do it. And that's not the way I believe that legislators need to behave. They really need expertise backing us up. And I do fear that this town board is not willing to spend the money to get these experts to give us
Why not? They
information.
spend so much money on airport lawyers. Why can't they spend money on getting an engineer who will give them the right idea about what to do?
Well, and that's why we need to make sure that we base exactly the point. And that's the balancing act. We need to make sure that we spend money where the money is needed and where the money is going to be able to help the entire community, not just certain segments of the community.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, and I do hope that they do come to the right decision. The problem is that they're taking too much time to do it, because we just had a prediction that we are going to have more, bigger and better and more of them this year. I mean, I'm really beginning to get so scared about it. I don't know what to do first, try to get a generator or get my solar powered, going, and or find an escape route. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing, but it scares me. It really does. I'm worried about it. I'm worried about it for the whole place.
There is that fear, because we've seen it now in such a personal way. We know people that houses flooded and that were affected by this last storm. That it is a lot of fear, and so people want to know exactly where am I going to go, how am I going to get through this. And I know a lot more people have radios with them right now. I mean, you need a radio. Your phone isn't going to work.
I know.
My landline actually worked. I know most people have just cell phones now, but my landline worked, but my cell phone didn't work. So, and we had no electricity, so I couldn't charge it anyway. Thank goodness for LTV, because they opened their doors and said, if you want to come, and they had the big screen TV up, and we could plug in all of our electronic devices. So that was, I think they did it for 2 or 3 nights.
Yeah, the East Hampton Library also.
And the East Hampton Library, that was wonderful.
Very,
so
hospitable place to go to charge things.
Yeah.
So moving from that rather large topic, I want to another big thing that I think is probably the most important of all, which is that of portable water. And there is this study I'm hoping that's going to go on about comprehensive.
Well, this is the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan, and we went out for what is called a request for proposal, asking for qualified engineers to give us an idea of, well, we gave them a list of things that we wanted them to look at and study. One of them being our scavenger waste plant facility and our septic systems, individual septic systems, so that they could coordinate in an effort on how to make sure that we keep our waters clean, that we, dispose of waste effectively and efficiently and without polluting. So we went out for a request for proposal. We got four firms came back, and there was a selection committee that selected the firm, and we voted 3-2 on the board to select this one particular firm. We wanted to bond for it as a capital project because it would lead to some capital improvements within the town, and we couldn't get the 4 votes. When you bond for something, you need 4 instead of just a majority. So you need a majority plus 1, and we couldn't get that, so we still had the 3. And this is, again, one of those things where we need a professional. We need to be able to rely on professional advice and not spend money that we think we might want to, well, either we want to spend it because we want to upgrade something, and we don't have the expertise to back it up. And we need that expertise. We need a long-range plan. We need a comprehensive plan. We don't need a maintenance program for the year. We don't need a thought of what might happen if let's replace a few septic systems that might be near the water and could be failing. All admirable, but put it in the context of a plan. And if we can put it in the context of a plan, we will have a much better way to solve a problem. It's like our comprehensive plan that we have just to help manage the town. We look at that plan all the time. That plan is important. It tells us who we are. It tells us we're unique. It tells us that we want to have a rural character, and we want to make sure we support farming and fishing and the industries that are important to what is actually created where we live and why we're all here. So we need that expertise with the wastewater management plan.
I don't think that people quite realize that the goal of the next 30, 40 years is going to be water to drink. I've done this for about 10 years, looking at our aquifer and where we need to make sure that we don't pollute. We at this end of Long Island only have really 2 layers of the aquifer, where in further up island in Nassau County they have 3 layers. The first layer they've polluted. They have to. Their wells are much deeper than, and we don't have that. If we start to really pollute that glacial layer, the one right under us, the one that we live, work, and play on, and that everything goes into, we need great filtering systems. We need that the forest, and we need land that will do that naturally. So having preserved land is really important over the main aquifer. And those are going to help keep us. If we lose that water, there's no other place we can get the water. And everything you have, all the property and all those big homes will be worthless because you won't be able to turn on that faucet and get water.
No.
Water to shower, water to drink, water to cook.
Water's very, and it is globally. I mean, there are parts of the world where a gallon of water is worth more than a gallon of gasoline.
That's right.
So water is an important issue. When my kids were really little, we went, we did the proverbial, we went to the Grand Canyon with the kids, and they had a great program where one of the guides, actually it was a ranger, and it was about water because they were talking, it's a almost desert situation. So it was a woman, she had a bucket of water. And she poured all of the water out except about this much. And she says, this is the amount of drinkable water in the world. If the bucket was the world, of water, only this much is drinkable. And so we have to remember that. And that's the thing that we have, here we have an aquifer that is not pristine. We've got some problems, but we need to make sure that it stays clean.
And we also have to have some way of helping people to get upgrades on their septic systems. And I would love to get one of those nitrix things if they weren't $20,000 that Pio Lombardo sells. But there's surely somebody can come up with something.
Well, the world of septic systems is changing a lot. From the first time, years I was on the planning board, over almost 10 years ago, we were looking at something called a chromoglass system. And that system is still available, but it's really now a much more antiquated system than some of the newer things that are coming out. So it's going to evolve. It has to evolve. We have to be able to take care of our own human waste. And
Yes.
without polluting, without putting too much nitrogen back in, and then what it does is going to start killing off the bays and our surface waters. And so we have to be really careful on, and we have to become educated. We have to make sure we don't put too much pesticides on our lawns, that they don't have to be perfection all the time. That,
Cut it short, that's what I say. Who cares what it is?
Sure. But, so you make sure you don't take pills and flush them down the toilet, that you're finished with that antibiotic, you have a pill or two left over, don't flush it down the toilet, don't put it down the drain. It's just going to go right back into the aquifer again, and it changes the balance of what's there. So dispose of things responsibly. But that's an education that we hope we're going to, continue. And I will say, the litter committee had been sort of defunct for about 3 years. So when I got back on the board, we brought the litter committee back, and Deb Klugers is the chair, and she's done a lot of good work on
Deb Klugers, she walks on water as far as I'm
well,
concerned.
she certainly cares about the water. But
My God almighty, she was out yesterday building up a dune somewhere.
Yeah, she was working with the trustees yesterday, I think at Lazy Point. I may have that wrong, but it might have been Louse Point. But I know she was out working. So
Yes.
So she's done an excellent job and part of what she wants in this committee, which has got a lot of good people on the committee, is awareness, is education. And that's going to be real important to be able to do that. So.
Now, my last question to
Okay.
you, since we don't have too much more time, is, and I did watch one of the meetings. I missed the real Hellfire one, but I watched one.
Only one?
Which I thought, well, they all are. And I have to watch them in my bedroom so I can swear at the screen with nobody hearing but me. And I couldn't get to sleep that night. I was so disturbed by the cantankerous behavior of some of the people on the board. And I was up till 6 a.m, and I just kept saying, oh, poor Sylvia, she must hate me because I worked for her election, because now she's stuck in it. How does she unload this? I mean, I would imagine that if I were working on that board, I would go out after that meeting and say, give me that bottle of vodka and put a straw in it, because I don't know how you can.
Well, it's at least one drink worthy of going out and getting something after, because you do have to calm down a little bit. It can be part of that challenge that we started out with talking about. It can be working, and it's hard sometimes, and it's I'm very grateful that there are a lot of people, not only employees in the town that I see on a daily basis, but people in the community that are very empathetic and so that helps. That helps when you can walk outside and people go, wow, I'm glad you were able to understand and not react. And so it can be very challenging.
Yes, I must say I was very upset with the treatment that Marguerite Wilson got. I was I don't know that woman from a hole in the wall, but I would say, oh my dear, maybe you should just get a job waiting tables somewhere and get out of this business because it was really abusive.
Well, and again, to the credit of our town employees, they have certainly taken some of this abuse, and I know that they're unhappy, and I know how hard it is, and how, you know, they have to live with it with their families as well. But, you know, I've worked with these people in the town that they are so capable, they are willing to stay in this situation and, you know, keep working and doing the best they can for this community. And I really hats off to them, from, you know, our police department to our planning to our, you know, harbors, and, you know, everybody has done just a terrific job. And
No, they do.
Buildings and grounds, I have to, you know,
they're
talk
wonderful.
about them and the rec people. They've all just done a really good job.
Yes, they have.
And I appreciate that it hasn't been easy, you know, partly because of a financial situation that was, you know, something that they didn't create either. So they've gone through that, and then they've gone through a period of time where they have not felt as appreciated as they should have felt.
Well, you can tell them that the community does appreciate them.
The community does.
Really does.
Absolutely, the community appreciates
You know,
them.
and we hope that they will continue to do good work, because you know what's
And they
going to
do.
happen? What's going to happen? Down the road, it's all going to change.
Well, you know, yes, and that's elected officials change all the time. You know,
That's right.
And
That's right.
that's what democracy is all about. Is you
Yes.
can change. You can change the people that are there, and you know, it'll be my turn one of these days as well.
Yes.
But while I'm here, I certainly want to be able to serve my community and do the best I can for the people that are in my community, and not worry about, you know, Again, I don't want to challenge them that they are not doing the right thing. I want to challenge them so that they are doing the right thing. Bring them along, bring them up. And that's how I feel about our community.
And that's why we love you.
Oh, well, thank you.
And that's the end.
Thanks.